stakes are high and needs are more complex when running an established consumer products brand. You've got mounting pressures across multi-channel sales, complex supply chains, inventory across multiple warehouses, and leadership needs fast, accurate data to make decisions. That's why leading brands partner with Baker Tilly, an accounting firm that specializes in the consumer product space. Their team understands the unique challenges of scaling product-based businesses, whether it's navigating transactions confidently, sales tax compliance, integrating ERP systems like NetSuite, or predictive analytics. Baker Tilly delivers. Discover how Baker Tilly's industry-focused services can help elevate your business. Visit bakertilly.com.
Quick shout out. Thank you, Jeremy, for having me come out here, you guys. I came kind of as a skeptic, not super familiar with this group. An awesome guy that works with me named Landon John said, hey, my buddy Jeremy out here is doing something special. Check it out. Retail Collective, Volcanic Retail. Anyways, I'm blown away. The value to me, incredible. Nice to meet those of you who I've had a chance, but let's get into it here. So I'll start with a quick story about myself. I've been like a student my whole life, always listening, learning. So this environment, like, it's my cup of tea. I'm a note guy. I got 50 pages of notes already. And the passion that I had for the action sports and kind of outdoor sports growing up led me to basically study these brands from as young as I could remember. So being a student my whole life, seeking out mentorship from some of the best founders in, the apparel industry, I'm hoping has left me with some value I could pay forward. And so let's go for it. I was so into brands that even as a 13-year-old, when my mom and dad asked me what centerpieces I wanted for my bar mitzvah tables, I went in my room and grabbed stickers from my favorite brands like Vans, Burton, Arnett, and asked them to laminate them and put flowers around them on a stand in the middle of each table. And so anyways, as a kid, my Michael Jordan was the founders of brands like Nixon, Hennings and the guys at Stance, brands like Volcom, brands like Hurley. And I made it kind of a mission, not even realizing it was my mission, to annoy the heck out of all of them on LinkedIn until they would let me go to lunch with them and pick their brains. And so the whole goal to me as a kid was not to become a pro athlete, but to become the founder of a brand that would allow me to have a platform one day that would inspire others the way these founders had inspired me, and allow me to wear an article of clothing that embodied who I wanted to be reflected as, and have the excuse to go snowboard and say I was testing products. So at my office, I've had my same desk that I got for college, actually, when I got my first dorm room, and I've kept it my whole life because I started slapping stickers on it of every brand, restaurant, coffee shop, resort that I'd ever visited. And it's currently nearly covered. And the plan is, once it's fully covered in these lifestyle brands, I'm going to lacquer the whole thing. And that's going to be the look of my desk, So anyways, having this dream to one day found a brand led me to working for brands from a real young age. I'm going to get into, this is a pretty tight presentation. A lot of you guys have amazing presentations. Forgive my lack of awesomeness on my presentation. I'm hoping I could talk through this. But led me to founding a brand of premium headwear called Melon in 2013. And the impotence for this brand was my collection of Vans shoes for when I would skateboard, or DC snowboard boots for when I would snowboard, all seemed like they had real intention and like they were built from scratch, from the ground up, to be the very best product for what I needed to use them for. And what I found, that every single brand that I was a fan of seemed to have the same exact 4 factories making their hats and then slapping an embroidered logo on the front of them as if the hat didn't matter. And as a guy who only felt comfortable in hats, it would kind of annoy me because no one put thought or care into the quality of these hats. And right as I would kind of break a hat in to feel like myself and feel like I could go out into the world, it would start to smell weird, and I would know I probably shouldn't be wearing it anymore, and it was time to retire the thing and I'd have to refine myself. So the mission for Melon to me was to create the most premium headwear in the world. And we would define that through being more sustainably made for the environment. It would be symbolic of a brand that elevated the status and helped exude the brand's promise for curated outdoor enthusiasts who basically wanted to fly a flag that said, I'd rather be out doing something fun and I'm doing pretty good in life. And I think our team's done a really good job. By the way, anyone in the room heard of Melon hats before? Quick. Oh, that's awesome. Wow. Tell you, there's a lot of times I asked that question and it was embarrassing. I was like, oh, thank you. So anyways, that's freaking awesome. Anybody own one? All right. So we got half of you to still convert. We got awareness, but no conversion on half of you. All right, cool. Hopefully you're satisfied. So our kind of many exercises of what I wanted this brand to be, tons of mentorship from amazing leaders in the industry, and an incredible support system from a group I partnered with 8 years ago. The founding group behind a premium footwear brand called Olukai, if any of you are familiar with the little fish hook, the Hawaiian fish hook. And so at Melon, we believe with more time, thought, and care invested into how we make our products, we can extend the life of our hats and the adventures we take them on. We're actually in the business of inspiring people to do more of what they love. And what we hope it means when you see somebody in the wild with a Melon hat is that that person stands for higher quality living. And so there's a lot to unpack here. I'll do my best to make it simple. And we created this, what's called the brand house, with a close friend that I'd highly recommend each of you who happen to be at the helm of a brand to challenge yourself to build your own version of a brand house. And it effectively was about a 40-page brand book document with the objective of summarizing it into something you could blow up on the walls of the headquarters, cover in a 10-minute new employee, new team member onboarding, but give them the roadmap to make decisions around. I still think ours needs work. But our purpose as a company is empowering people to look, feel, and be their best. So there's a lot of undertones of inspiring people and optimism and motivation. There's a ton of inclusivity, and there's intentional embracing of others' views. And then there's also internally at Melon this culture of challenge one another if you don't think they're bringing their best, because we want to be surrounded by the best. And the only way you're ever going to get there is to hold each other to a higher level. So our mission, create the most premium headwear in the world. The promise that we, bestow, hopefully through our marketing to our consumers, is this is the best hat you'll ever wear. The essence of the brand's personality, if you experience the brand or somebody on the team, hopefully they leave you with a sentiment of like, man, just get out there and have a blast. And then there's these pillars that we would call like kind of the foundation coupled with the personality that help the whole team make decisions the way the brand would want the decision made. And BG, who's actually going to speak next here, taught me this long ago. If you just sit the invisible brand in the meeting with you, it's hard to alienate or kind of cover up what the brand would have actually wanted you to have said in that meeting or in that decision. And so creating these parameters has been really helpful. But relentless improvement, products don't improve themselves, the people that make them do. And so digging into the reinvestment into learning, books, podcasts, mentorship in our team is a huge piece. Care more. Don't do anything unless you're going to do it the best you can. Personally, we encourage a lot of work-life balance and pursuing your passions. We feel like, just like in Super Mario Brothers, when you get the mushroom and it, like if people don't get outside and do what makes them happy, be around their kids, go golf, hike, whatever that thing is, they need that power up. And so that helps them bring their best every day. Internally, we're a family, and we hope what the brand feels like is really competent, very real, humble, driven, and optimistic. So this leads me to my final slide, which isn't very visually pleasing, but it's important info. So coming from the creative brand founder side, owning an agency, helping incubate, scale, connect dots, go to market on probably close to 100 brands now in the apparel space. The learning that I had was that typically private equity or really sharp finance people are really good at creating profitability in a business, but that a brand is not actually a business and a business is not actually a brand. They both need to intersect in order to live harmoniously. And it's oftentimes why I think you'll see brands in our space get acquired by private equity, and they'll prioritize the business nutrients. They'll strip out operating expenses. They'll wind down marketing because it's intangible ROI. They'll kind of harvest the momentum of what the brand's nutrients had led them to their attraction in the first place. And sometimes the brands will lose kind of a foothold because of the lack of pouring into the brand's nutrients and needs. Then you got really cool stuff that brands do that, if not managed against a business appropriately, can bankrupt you pretty quickly, because how rad was that? Oh, it was so fun. Oh, did you see their faces? Do you see how cool that was? But if it didn't result in ROI, you better have some sort of business piece of this that's going to play. So we try to break down kind of a effective balance here of brand and business nutrients to where there's an equal amount of importance to both, but in different conversations in the room. You might have heard of like the red hat, black hat, yellow hat theory. And the whole theory there is that we're going to have a conversation right now, but we're going to have it about the importance of this brand's effect on the customer experience. So we're not going to talk about the profitability of this call. We're not going to talk about the business nutrients that may become the result of this conversation. We're going to talk about the brand, the emotion, and it kind of gives you this lens in which to have an eye-to-eye conversation with the smart finance minds in the room when you've set the table appropriately. And these on the left side of the screen here are just some of the critical brand nutrients. We'll kind of go through it here. And this is something that I kind of review for us often, as well as any brands that come up across my plate for advice or an investment or anything like this. I like to kind of qualify whoever brings me the opportunity of who is this brand for, and how do we want to make people feel when they wear this brand? What do we want them to be saying about themselves when they're out in the wild and they meet a stranger? And your brand-based decisions should be reinforcing and backing up these tribal promises that you're hoping to reinforce. And so brands are the results of the decisions we make, the actions we do and don't take. And here's a list of the kinds of things that pour into supporting or alienating a brand. And so the tribe, typically you'll want, I'm going to use the LA Dodgers. So sorry if there's any, non-Dodger fans in the house. The Los Angeles Dodgers logo, it's a brand. The tribe, you could argue, is the LA Dodgers fan base. The epicenter would be Dodger Stadium. One of the ambassadors you might know the name of could be Shohei Ohtani. And the combination of alignment in the way in which these things are cooked, which is why these are kind of called nutrients, is I kind of fancy a brand as a recipe, and that each of these are a form of ingredient. And the taste of the dish is what the brand's promise is supposed to make. And so each brand that each of you is wearing here today, whether it's intended to be a minimalistic piece that doesn't say much, still the cut of the shirt or the drape of the sweater or the cut of the pant or the height of the heel, all these things still say things about how you wanted to be perceived and what made you feel more like yourself out there. If we get into this here, where would the epicenters be in Mellon's capacity? We want to be in the most aspirational playgrounds where our consumers are having the most fun. And so we're the official headwear of Aspen. We're the official headwear of Mammoth Mountain in California. Hopefully Park City one day soon. And we kind of fancy the people that work really hard, that desire to go out and get some fresh powder. That's not an inexpensive activity, but they're going to be really valuing the gear, the comfort, the performance, the durability, and the whole experience. And we just want to be a piece of that elevates that. So our epicenters are important. The branding in the epicenters is important. I'll give you a small example. Anyone familiar with NFTs in the crypto space? Probably not a great example right now with what the markets are doing, but in the NFT creation, they build a roadmap. And the roadmap is intended to continue to add value to that digital asset. To me, as brands, that's our whole job, is to build a roadmap of continual value to the consumer who invested in your token or our hat, to then get surprised and delight by extra value. So at Mammoth Mountain, when you check in, if you've got a melon hat on, when you go to buy your ticket, they're just going to slide you a discount, acknowledge your hat at check-in, and say, oh, melon hat, yeah, here, we're going to take care of you today. They're partners of ours. And you're going to be sitting there next to your friend not wearing a melon hat, who's going to pay full price and go, maybe that hat wasn't a ripoff. That's crazy. So we're continuing to pour into where the epicenter can become more of a found added value. The team and the culture internally is absolutely critical. I think sometimes people start to lose sight of the importance of that internal tribe. And then if that internal tribe isn't right, there's no way the external tribe is going to be right. Your marketing, the brand's perspective, logo, visual, and creative direction, copywriting, voice, and styling, the content, literally down to the smell that we have at our headquarters and in our retail stores is important. You've all probably walked into a boutique at some point and, man, it smells nice in here. And that's all intentional. And so to kind of move back over to the other side here, we'll get over to business nutrients. You guys are probably very familiar, a lot of smart people in here. I even saw there's some private equity in there. So hopefully I didn't leave anything important out on the business side of the nutrients over here. But these pieces are incredibly valuable and important as well. And each of them, I started to try to look for through lines where you could start to say, well, what would be brand and business? And it's kind of a small list, but they are directly correlative when you're trying to basically value, is this business getting more valuable? Is it growing or is it declining? And I've seen businesses that productivity wise are producing less cash, but they're actually growing in demand. They're just poorly managed on the business nutrient side. I've seen the opposite. I've seen where brands look like they're doing well because the bottom line is growing, but the brand actually has no juice in the streets. And the people that wear it are like, oh, I don't even know. I just got this sweatshirt at a gas station and they don't have a clue why they purchased it. There's no sticky, there's nothing there. So anyways, this middle here is, I think, the important part of today's kind of little chat, is that when you can start to find measurables that suffice for qualifying that the brand is getting healthier and the business is getting healthier in tandem, these are really kind of the most important things to make sure that both sides are aligned on. And so in here, views and followers, they're, ultimately your marketing and your tribe growth. Cool factor is hard to measure, but it in our space. You could see who's wearing your brand and who's not out there in the world. And then you ask the people that are cool, why not? And you can actually get some really good answers. And the hat I'm wearing today is a little bit of a departure from the hats that you guys all have on your tables. There's a little bit more trendy, a little bit more youthful, and a mesh trucker hat. Internally at Mellon, being about $100 ball cap, we challenged ourselves to say, like, could we do that? Like, is that us? Is that on brand for us? If we do it, it has to be the world's most premium materials. We had to invent our own mesh. We had to incorporate technologies. We had to find a way to almost reimagine our brand on the front of this thing that didn't even, a full departure from our logo. And the cool people in the market, fashion-wise, are the ones that drove us taking the leap to doing this hat. And it actually launched 4 days ago and blew out. Incredibly grateful, especially given what's going on in the world right now. And so that cool factor is something that if you're in the apparel space, specifically in, our space, it's something you can actually measure through feedback. Trendy is very different. Trendy is something I thought, who was the gentleman that did the ladder presentation and had such a good segment? So basically your early adopters versus your critical mass whole thing here. And I think trendy can sometimes mean almost more like somebody jumped on board because a cohort that they kind of trust co-signed or validated some new look or thing, but they personally don't yet have a connectivity to a why behind why they wear it beyond that. And so it's something you got to be careful of, that did this consumer buy it because of what the brand meant to their soul, or because they just kind of didn't want to be left out at the next family vacation. Partnerships are incredibly important. You know who best-in-class partners are, and you should know who aren't best-in-class partners. As lucrative as some of them can be, maintaining and staying the course on brand strengthening partnerships is key, and there's a way to do it profitably always. General growth, revenue, and bottom line wise, an omni-channel approach. A brand that's truly growing and a business that's truly growing is going to see omni results. It won't be like, oh, the e-com channel's way up, but our wholesale sell-through is just dogging for some reason. That's a sign that your e-com strategy is tricking people into buying your products rather than you pulling your products all the way through it with an intentional sentiment. I don't like the term digital marketing. I don't even believe in it, honestly. The analogy I like to make is in apparel, you hire sales reps, and their job is to go out and represent your brand and sell your brand into all your desired retail partners in their region. They're called sales reps because their job's to go sell stuff, and they're not called marketing reps. When you hire a digital agency or build internal digital marketing, you're not hiring them to market for you. You're hiring them to sell stuff. And so I think creating a delineation between those is really critical, because if you're spending a ton on digital marketing, you're not actually marketing your brand in a full functioning encompassed funnel. You're creating some impression-based marketing with the desired result of clicking them into your site and converting them as a sale. So it's something you got to be careful of, and really looking at how you're kind of validating that. Most people say, 95% of our marketing spends in our digital marketing. And to me, that's a big sign that it's a propped up e-com based strategy, and there's not a lot of depth to that marketing. SKU efficiency and line planning, not getting over your skis and trying to be the best in every category. To Henning's point on Stance being a category killer in socks, same exact perspective, could not agree more, that the consumer doesn't dress head to toe in a brand anymore. They're going to pick the footwear that makes them feel the most like themselves, the bottoms that make them feel the most like themselves, top, the hat, the bag, the watch, the sunglasses, all different brands, but all with a slightly different yet similar promise that helps them feel like themselves. And then innovation, your innovation index and how you're progressing and continuing to add value. And then licensing is a scary word in our space. It's like a drug. You're harvesting someone else's demand and then calling it your own. And so there's a very big caution I would just warn on as you're building an apparel brand. There's really incredibly valuable licensing partnerships you can do, but they're very hard to anniversary. And you can find yourself going down the rabbit hole of what's next. And it's not about your brand anymore. It's about where's the next other brand's demand that you're going to harvest. So anyways, hopefully some of this was helpful for you guys. And I guess I'll just open it up for questions, comments. Hey.
I love this so much. I love how you have such clarity as a brand about what you stand for. I wonder how you instill that into your culture and people, your staff. And have you ever had to fire or hire? I mean, of course you're hiring by it, but have you had to fire because people just couldn't get it?
Really good question. Appreciate that too. It's a constant exercise internally at Melon to reinforce the do's and don'ts. We've got a brand book. We've got the brand house. We've got a lot of the leadership, I would say, is pretty clear, and they're able to carry that torch at this point. And part of the way I review the team's growth is through their ability to make those sorts of calls that are on brand for us, and then use them as teachable moments. If somebody makes the wrong choice or maybe an off-brand choice, ask them why. They might have a really good point, and we might even amend something. But typically it becomes a learning moment, and we've absolutely had to make changes on this journey when somebody, oftentimes we found that some of the sales leads are simply sales driven, and we're working really hard to make sure that they understand that their responsibility is marketing, collaborations, market insights, trends, having us popped up at the local epicenters. And we've, as silly as it sounds, like we've had people that are overly sales focused that aren't looking out at the overall long-term health of the decision they're making, maybe selling a retailer that's not the absolute best in class. And keeping it clean. I almost feel like you guys all know this, but A+ players want to play with A+ players. And so in the recruiting process at Mellon, I try to scare people off when they get to me as a final interview where I say, this is a very elite organization. These are very elite people in every single role in this company. Nobody's scared to outwork the others, and they're all going to call each other out because we want to be the best and we want back-to-back championships. So if you're not here to operate in a team at that level, I know plenty of other brand owners I could introduce you to. So,
hey, good job.
Thank you.
Same space, PE side. So I would ask. It's really interesting because UPT and LTV are obviously really important, right?
yep.
They're going to directly affect your CAC. You said that you want to stay in the lane, which is great. So what is your response to if you ever get pressure to expand past hats? Because how are you getting that person to come back more than one time a year for LTV? And how are you managing that?
Amazing question. So we set out to create the most premium headwear in the world. In ball caps specifically, it's roughly a $20 billion annual addressable market. Domestically in the US, it's about $7.5 billion. And of that, about $4 billion of it is licensed sports ball caps. So when we really boil it down, in the non-licensed sports cap addressable market size, several $billion still available for us. The idea of where else we can expand within our category with permission, things like cold weather knits and cashmere beanies. Super confidentially, we're working on a Western division with very elevated, highly technical cowboy hats that honor the historical look and feel. When it comes to our ball caps and how to maintain that customer coming back, I kind of boil that back down to three things. Does the product over deliver? Because there's a pretty high expectation based on our price point. And when the person wears it, are they actually going, wow, this is different. This is worth it. Separately, did they get a sign from the gods in the, out there in the world from a friend they respect, or seeing something from a professional athlete wearing the brand walking into their game, or someone that gives them like the nod that they made the right choice, that they're in the right brand. And the third piece of it is we're gnarly on customer experience. We call it above and beyond. We have a separate allocated budget to when if and when anyone ever complains or calls in or makes a comment on social, it's within 5 minutes addressable response time from our team. And they're basically incentivized to blow them away with a hat replacement, dinner that night, on a gift card to DoorDash, whatever it takes, so that the person ends up sharing the wowing experience, even in a negative. Business coach of mine, Jay Abraham, says in times of challenges where you can actually truly make an impact. I'll share with you, being in the private equity side of it, that we have a 55% returning customer rate inside of 3 months for a second purchase, and then an annual returning purchase frequency of 6 purchases, which we're hoping is indicating that we're converting people completely into our headwear because of the nature of how the product delivers on its promise. And so we just got to continue to innovate, provide a better experience, and maintain the health of this very premium brand positioning, and hope that all the 50% of you that are aware but haven't purchased eventually decide to make it and give it a try. We started opening our own vertical retail stores 3 years ago, and we call them cells, and it stands for the Customer Experience Labs. The team is paid not to sell hats. The team is paid to blow people's minds, make their day, and be sure they leave educated on what makes Mellon superior. That way, even if they're not a buyer, they're going to leave and be able to defend us. And we find that it converts people really well. So we're going on store 6 with a plan of about 15 or so in A+ markets over the next year and a half, with plenty of learnings from lots of other brands who've gotten over their skis on bad leases and all those sorts of things. Our stores have a 3-month payback. We're a super tight footprint. We've got the retail math formulated at a pretty high level. What else?
All right, last question.
Brian, fantastic.
Thank you.
Content, really helpful. As a premium brand, what's your view on collaborations? Whether they help you, whether they're synergistic? What do you think about them?
Love the question. I think they're nearly imperative in defining your market position. For a premium brand like ours, I'll tell you Louis Vuitton's in our roadmap. And there are like some very substantial luxury brands whom, well, I'll say this, you may or may not be familiar, but there's a song called Top of the World by Big Sean and Mike Posner. And there's a lyric where he says, I'm trying to make it to the top and throw my dog's ladder up. So I think in any collaboration, somebody brings more to the table, and being transparent and okay with that is a really key thing, and really understanding what each partner could benefit and would like to benefit from a collaboration is key. We invented a kind of cool collaboration concept, at least I think we invented it, where we will collaborate with a premium best-in-class brand that's out of, headwear, where we can provide their customer a very premium headwear option that's more fashion-driven in the way it's built. It's not just merch looking, and help that brand end up with more logo impressions by nature of their customer actually wanting to wear a Melon version of this collaborative hat. And in return, we obviously get to speak to their customer file, but we'll release the product via a split email where both companies will access their email file or own files, putting one of 2 SKUs directing each other to each other's websites for purchase. And the whole idea is to kind of match the customer files. It's not a great customer experience if you want both colors, but if you want both colors, you got to transact at both brands. So it is what it is. Yeah, no, thank you. But hugely important, hugely important. Call it assimilation marketing is what a collaboration really is. Yeah, thank you guys.
In the fast-paced world of retail, technology can be a transformative force, reshaping the way businesses operate and consumers shop. Is your retail organization leveraging technology to its top capabilities? Evolving your technology capabilities can help enhance visibility into your business, decrease risk of increasing cybersecurity incidents, accelerate productivity with artificial intelligence, and more. Deeply immersed in the consumer products industry, Baker Tilly professionals bring customized solutions that can help you find the right technology fit. Visit bakertilly.com to learn more.